I don't know about you guys, but I've been fired, I've been laid off, I've had these things happen, separated from companies, and nobody tells you how to do that or what to do next. And I don't know about you, but it's an emotional thing, right? You're like, what am I going to do next? And then you got to do that post on LinkedIn. I'm so grateful for everybody else, and I've been asked to leave, and how do you write that, right? Well, friends, what we're going to hear today is pretty special. We're going to hear from experts that are going to help us to prepare for that day. And on behalf of farmers, we're very, very grateful to have this opportunity to sponsor this excellent discussion. And we're excited to dive right into these panelists. So Malcolm, can I go ahead and dive right in? All right, here we go. So what I want to start off with is a speed round to kind of introduce our speakers. And if you haven't had a chance, definitely scan that QR code. You can learn about each of these rockstar panelists here and learn a little bit about their background and network with them. That's all good things. LinkedIn, let's do it. That's great. All right, so friends, the reason you came here is we want to learn together. Now, at the end, we're going to have some time for some questions. I've come up with actually Malcolm has come up with a few questions to ask and to get the conversation started. And then at the end, we definitely want to take your questions. For those of you joining us on Zoom, we definitely want to take your questions in the comments. And so let's dive right in. So Ray, let's start with you. Let's talk about personal branding. What are the key things we need to consider as we kind of build our career persona, if you will? What would you recommend, please?
Okay, we're going to keep it real. Is that on? Yeah? Okay. We're going to keep it real. And I love acronyms, and I love the letter R, and usually I have Ray's 5 R's, so recommendations, referrals, ratings, rankings, reviews, and then rewards. So rewarding those people who give you those types of things, especially on LinkedIn for recommendations. Referrals, obviously, is a good one. But let's keep it real. So R stands for respect your authority. So authenticity, or sorry, respect your authenticity and authority, let's say. But authenticity is the foundation of a strong personal brand. People connect with what feels genuine. So keeping it real, right? And then when you respect your authenticity, you stay true to your values, your passions, and unique qualities. Oftentimes people will just, when I'm in an interview, they'll just tell me what they think I want to hear, but that's not always the case. I want to hear what you really think and how you really show up. So reflect on your core values, ensure that they align with how you present yourself, share your personal journey, and both successes and challenges, those types of things to keep it real. And then E is engage consistently. Building a personal brand is not just a one-time effort. Consistently engaging across platforms and in professional settings, reinforcing your presence and keeps you top of mind. So continuously, consistently posting regularly on LinkedIn and those professional platforms and other relevant platforms, articles, personal experiences, projects that you've done. I was just telling Dean, post your portfolio, the work that you've put out there, the projects that you have, case studies, those types of things. And then participate in industry events. Consistently showing up, do webinars, discussions, showcase. You all showed up today. Give yourselves a round of a hand for showing up. That's like 80% of it. Good job. Responding to comments, messages, emails, those types of things. And then A is act with intention. Every action you take should have alignment with your personal brand and your career goals. Acting with intention ensures that your efforts are purpose and contribute to the image that you want to project, that you want others to see, because you're keeping it real. And then L is leverage your network. So if you're not working or not networking, you're not working. If you're not networking, you're not working. Yeah, if you're not networking, you're not working. That's what I meant to say. So yeah, thinking about how you can use those who know people. So again, those referrals, those recommendations. If you have some place where you have Google, you can give ratings, rankings, reviews, all those places that you can get people to talk about you and accelerate your word of mouth advertising, because that's what we all need people to do, is to talk about us and keep us top of mind. Okay.
That's great. Being authentic and connecting with others, networking are all important. What are some of the things that we've got to kind of beware that can kind of destroy or damage a personal brand? What are some things that, besides, something illegal, we don't want to be on the news for that, but talk about some common mistakes we might make that might damage that personal brand.
Okay, so we all remember the ad that was what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Yeah, what happens in Vegas stays on Facebook and, oh, I almost said Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter, and all the places, right? So just continuously thinking about your online presence. And if you have things that may be questionable, we know that people will look at your online presence. So maybe go back and Google yourself, think about what might be out there, and just, not being authentic, I think is really the key word here for me, is just make sure that you're being genuine, and, overlooking the genuine aspect of what you can give to people is super important, because if you come across as fake, no one wants that, right? We don't want fake news. So I think that if you can consistently show up in person, online, any of those places that you can be there to be top of mind, TOMA, top of mind, that's going to help your personal brand.
Thank you, Ray. Stephanie, you're next. I'm going to put you on the spot. Obviously, you work with search and recruitment. Talk a little bit about what trends you see in the industry and within search and recruitment, please.
You bet. So how many of you are actually looking for work right now? And how many of you feel that the labor market is not as good as it was a few years ago? Yeah. So, I think what I'm here to do is to ground us all in the reality of the data that we're seeing. My firm works pretty much exclusively in Idaho. I would say 90% of the work we do is for employers here. So we're very, very, very well connected and tied into what's happening locally, which is good for you guys because I'm assuming most of you are looking for work in the market. So the federal unemployment right now is at 4.2% overall. That includes all of the states in aggregate. Idaho's unemployment right now is at 3.7%, and it was at 3.5% this time last year. So there's a slight increase in our unemployment rates, meaning there's slightly more people out of work right now. But we're seeing many, many industries still hiring. Construction is incredibly robust for the reasons of the Micron expansion project. There's a lot of construction happening at my friend Amanda's shop over at St. Luke's. We've got the Meta data center going in. So construction is very, very robust. We also see a lot of hiring in manufacturing. But overall, there's kind of a bifurcation in the market. So for those people without a degree, there's still a lot of demand in hiring for those individuals. For those that are in what I would call kind of white-collar degreed roles, the competition is much, much higher, and I imagine that's where you all sit. So it is a much more competitive marketplace than it's been since, let's say 2021, where things were just wild, but that market was not normal. I've been in recruiting for 30 years. We've never seen anything like that. So we'll never probably see anything like that again. But the market here locally is very stable. It's very resilient. We aren't seeing employers feeling real enthusiastic about hiring right now, but we also don't see a ton of freezes. So I think people are just kind of waiting to see how this new administration, how some of the policies settle out. Hiring is the biggest cost an employer can take on, and so when they're a little unsure, they're much more conservative with hiring. But I want you guys to take away that this is not a doom and gloom market, and we've been in some of those. In 08 through 10 was terrible. We saw it in years before 2000 as well. So I think that things look okay right now. And if you ask me my prediction, I would say hiring will pick up in the second half of 2025. That's my prediction. But we're seeing relatively stable unemployment rates. We're also seeing very low quit rates right now. So for those of you that are unemployed but kind of unhappy, I would not recommend going out and looking for work right now. This is kind of a hold tight, I think, scenario. You may feel a little bit more bullish in the second half of the year. So those are some of the things that we're seeing right now in the marketplace. Also, just to tack on to Ray's piece about personal brand, and Chase will be able to echo this as well. Sorry if I took your stuff. I probably did. Oh, God. LinkedIn is the place that we recruiters go to find you guys. I'm not on Instagram. I could care less what you're doing on there. I'm not on Facebook. I am on LinkedIn exclusively looking for you to hire you for the jobs that I'm working on. That's where I go to find you. So in terms of just simple things that you can focus on to make yourself more attractive to me and Chase when we go out and try to find you for the jobs that we're working on, be sure that you have a very, very professional headshot. First and foremost, that's the thing that people look at. We could talk all day about how that may or may not be right, but that's what happens. So be sure that your headshot is professional and up to date. You haven't cut your spouse out of a party picture from Cancun in 2026 or whatever happened in Vegas. Don't do that. Be sure that you've got a lot of keywords in your description of what you're doing, because I type in keywords to find you. Communications, public relations, global. These might be some things that I go in to look for you. And be sure that your title, to the extent that you can, is something that's industry specific. We see a lot of funky titles, like Chase and I are recruiters. That's the way people refer to us generally in the market, but we see things like talent acquisition strategist. I can't find you if you have a funky title. So be sure, to the extent that you can align your titles with what is common in the market, that's a helpful tip.
Thank you, Stephanie. Great advice, great advice. Now, I was in Vegas all week this week at a conference, and they both brought this up, so I'm worried about what dirt they have on me, so anyway, I got to go look. Oh, yeah. All right, Chase, back to you. Obviously, you're a leader in the recruitment industry. What, in these very competitive type of roles and industries, how do we set ourselves apart? Is there anything that you would recommend that we could try that would make us pop when an employer is looking?
Yeah, and both of my colleagues mentioned things along these lines. Authenticity is huge. And I was thinking, how do I address a crowd of kind of diverse people looking for different things? But that covers it. It's like, be yourself, have conversations. I've even encouraged people to stop dropping, you kind of have to, but stop dropping online applications. Just go talk to people. If you can emphasize talking to people in those industries, in those companies that you're interested in, hang out with the people that you feel like are your people, right? Connect with them as a person versus as an applicant, and I think you'll have some success. The other thing I was thinking about was every business leader in America is scared to death of AI, and so get comfortable with it. If you can get comfortable with it and have an answer when that question comes up in an interview, it's going to change the dynamic of their interest in you as a candidate right now. That's probably a phenomenon that will last for the next 12 months. And then after that, I think companies and organizations will figure out how to make that more of part of their training courses and things. But for the next 12 months anyway, if you can go in and say, I'm really familiar with AI, I've developed a workflow, I know how to leverage it for my graphic arts stuff that I'm doing, like that's going to be massive, I think, for a lot of people. But then, yeah, in terms of the resume, I've seen thousands of resumes over the past 10 years, and the people that stand out are the ones that can tell a story with each and every bullet point on their resume. If you have taken your job description and copied and pasted the duties and responsibilities of your job and put them on your resume, I can tell you that's not a very compelling story. That's not going to be interesting. So to pop, have a story that you want to tell with each and every single bullet point on that resume, and make sure that it leads to something that you can talk about that's interesting about you in like an interview, right? So those are a couple things. I love the LinkedIn recommendations. I wholeheartedly agree. LinkedIn is where recruiters work. They also work with your former employers and for other people in your network. So be out there, be talking to people. Before I ever go to LinkedIn, I call business leaders to say, I have this awesome opportunity. Who do you recommend? And so if people are advocating for you, that's a good sign. If they're not, you need to be out there more. You need to be engaging more. And then last thing I'll say is just be really good at your job. And if you don't like your job, you're not going to be that good at it. So find something you like to do and then go hard, man. Go execute it.
Great. Thank you, Chase. You brought it up. I want to open that question or conversation up to the panel around AI. How do you see that playing a role in job search or recruiting? Anyone want to weigh in? And Chase, obviously, thank you for bringing that up. Anyone want to weigh in on that? I mean, should we have AI write our cover letters, or what's the story there with AI? Please.
Sure, yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to chime in here. So it's still in its development stage, right? And so we can be part of that and also learn from it. And so I think in some cases when it comes to just being in the job market and leveraging AI, I mean, I'm kind of experimenting for the first time with LinkedIn Premium. I've never tried it before, and I'm doing so now. If only just to kind of get a better sense of like what it's like to be in the job market, so I feel like I can better coach my students. And so I think the AI tool on LinkedIn is awesome. It will assess a job description, and you can just ask it, you know, how well do I fit this job? And it just kind of goes through and it just analyzes your LinkedIn profile against the job that you are looking at in LinkedIn. And so it's just a helpful tool of doing that analysis that we should be doing anyway to determine, am I a fit for this position that I'm seeing right now? And so the same thing goes for cover letters, right? You know, a cover letter should be an introduction of yourself for the intent of what you're applying for. And you know, it really shouldn't be a rehash of your resume. And so an effective cover letter is you introducing yourself and being very clear as to why you are interested in that job, why you're applying, what you bring to the table. And so, and the AI tools are really effective if you are effective at prompting it and giving it good context to help it understand what you are trying to do in the moment.
Oh, great advice. One of my good friends used AI to listen to the interview. They recorded it and then asked AI, how did I do? And there was incredible feedback. He got like, holy cow, I should have emphasized this, and this is what they were asking, and that sort of thing. So it might be another tool. But again, I think the prompts, I think that's a very salient comment. You know, you're only as good as your prompts with ChatGPT and AI. Anyone else want to weigh in on AI, how that's changing things? What about in branding? Is that changing that space at all, Ray?
Yeah, and I think that the things to think about AI is it still takes HI, human intelligence, to use it.
Oh, I
And
like
prompt
that.
engineering, I think there's degrees that you can get in prompt engineering now. So telling your tool what it did wrong is helpful because then it learns. It does that machine learning thing. So more you use it, the more you tell it what it did wrong, the better it's going to get at helping you with those cover letters. And all of the things that we're using, I mean, every day, I'm using it all the time. And don't be afraid of it. It's just another tool in your toolbox.
Love it. Please, Brandon.
Hello. Oh, yeah. So I guess there's a little bit of delay when flipping it on. Okay, so one caveat, one thing to be, AI, any tool you're using, it should not replace you as the applicant. And by that I mean, for those of you who have ever seen a lot of cover letters, a lot of resumes, and you kind of feel like, wow, this is just a copy and paste thing, or this is a very standard template. It doesn't feel like the person is engaging with you as the applicant. It feels like the template is, or their common messaging. And that's what you can get, unfortunately, as part of some outcomes and some content generation when you're using an AI tool as well. Just as if you're going to be looking at some common templates online, it comes across as not you if you are relying on, and so therefore trying to have a tool replace doing the work that you're supposed to be doing, as opposed to helping you do it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, that's huge. Yeah. Thank you. Amanda, I'm going to turn to you for a moment. Obviously, you're a leader in human resources here in the Valley. Talk to us a little bit about how employees can take charge of their professional development. Should we rely on HR to do that for us? Do we work in tandem with that sort of thing? Walk us through that, please.
Thank you. I'm so glad to answer the question. So maybe I could just start with a quick story, because I know some of you are students and you're entering into the career force. Some of you are early career, mid-career. Here is my golden rule. My undergraduate degree was in speech communications. The irony about that was that I was terrified to speak in front of a group. And I felt this lack of internal confidence when interacting with people, and so desperately was trying to find ways to reconcile that, knowing that within me, I had gifts and skills around connecting with people and communicating. I didn't know how to unlock it. And when I started in my very first role into an organization, I bumped into the same thing, which was this tremendous gap in terms of skill, interpersonal skill, confidence. And I shared with, I think it was Jill earlier, about I'd gone into a Dale Carnegie course for how to win friends and influence people. It was my first professional development program, and unlocked everything within me in terms of this path to connecting, building trust. We've heard the term authenticity. And I have built my entire career. I am not an HR professional, I'm a talent development, professional development. I've built a career around that. So here's what I would say to you. Be authentic and get real with the parts of yourself that you know are being held back. There's a gap in your overall development that only you know is really there. And I would argue that sometimes it's oftentimes connected to the people side of doing business, whether it's communicating confidently, showing up really, really professionally over email, developing really robust conflict management skills. Maybe this notion around networking feels really outside the comfort zone. Most of the work that I do within talent development is 100% dedicated to helping adult professionals unlock their comfort in working with other people. So I would say be an advocate of your growth. Yes, get the certifications, get the degrees, get those things, but what I will say 95% of the time, what will make you successful is how well you show up through the eyes of other people. Do you play well with others? Do you show that you are willing to, contribute, make an impact? Are you open to mentoring? Are you coachable? I would say from a recruitment side, my experience has been most often when a hiring manager talks with the recruitment team to say, let's understand who you've talked with, the first words out of many of their mouths would be, I really liked this person. They don't come forward with, well, they have all the degrees, you can have all the degrees and all the things. But if you can't connect and interact comfortably with people, I just don't believe you'll find as much career success.
Oh, love that. Great advice. I hope we're all taking notes. I think that's huge. So, Amanda, how do we put that on a resume? Okay, we're good at, we invested in ourselves in terms of connecting with other people. Does that just come out during the interview, or is there something I can do on my resume that would kind of reflect that? What would you recommend?
In terms of development activities, or just how to show the interpersonal side?
Yeah, you've made the investment in yourself.
Absolutely.
You've improved those skills.
Yes.
How do I show others that don't know me?
Yes.
How do I show them that I've made that investment?
Yeah. Well, I know for, within your resume itself, any, volunteer, board work, any time that you've been mentored or served as a mentee, any additional projects, things that you raised your hand for, those all indicate leadership and the ability to connect and work with people. The other thing too that I always find curious, for most of the job listings I think that you find, yes, they're going to say experience in XYZ, but I find that most oftentimes they say you've got to be able to work with really diverse groups of people, right? You've got to be, so I think when you're also crafting that resume, talk in terms of impact and results and your ability to connect in with a variety of people. I would argue not everyone is cut out to be in an organization. There's kind of rules of engagement when you go into a system, a company, that they say, hey, guess what? And what we talk about mainly within talent development, when we assess people, we go, they may know all these things, but how well do they show up with others? Can they influence? Can they connect? Do they collaborate? Can they trust them? So I think the more that you showcase that on a resume, it shines.
For sure. No, that really resonates. Brandon, how about, you're a student at Boise State, right? You want to reflect those kind of investments. Being involved in clubs, is that what you would recommend to students at that level? What would you recommend?
I mean, it could be anything. As I work with students, so primarily then my work is focused primarily on early career type of career coaching. And so, and that's just where the students that we work with are. And so it doesn't have to be necessarily a club. And just to be part of something, if you're volunteering in the community or you're volunteering anywhere, it's the idea that you know it when you see it. Okay. So you can say, hey, I'm a great leader, but that's, you're subjecting yourself to public opinion by saying you're a great leader. You can demonstrate it by simply being proactive and initiating things and diving in and being part of something. And so it's kind of like the low-hanging fruit at a university or college setting where a lot of cultivation of skills take place when students are part of clubs. But I've worked with students over the years where they're stressed out. They have work and school and they don't have any other time. They have other personal obligations in their lives. So they've been stressed out when they say, hey, it's kind of tough to hear that we're supposed to be involved with all this other stuff. And one of my favorite stories, I was working with a student where it was that scenario, and they just didn't have extra time outside of work and school. And so we just kind of started talking and thinking through, okay, well, what else have you done? And this is one of my favorite stories because they, based on the degree area they were and then what they had switched from, they were also kind of stressed about that, about not having. So we focused on, the importance of transferable skills on your resume and that kind of stuff, but their background did not lend to where they were heading career-wise. Yeah. So we just got to talking, and out of their mouth comes and I can't remember what country they went to, but it was after a tsunami, and they said, yeah, I went to somewhere in Southeast Asia and I helped rebuild homes. So it's yeah, put that on your resume. It's not a club, but it's something that people do, and again, that can show leadership, not just say, I'm a member of something.
Oh, wonderful idea. Ray, please.
Okay, I just told Dean today, he's a student at Boise State in graphic design major and business major graphic design minor? Yes. Okay, and speaking of clubs, I'm the advisor for the Boise State Ad Club and the National Student Advertising Competition class. So I immediately said, what year are you? When are you graduating? Can you do this? And so I think that there is such value in having teams of people come together, because now the teams that I've coached over the last 5 years, they're coming together, they're communicating, they're staying in alignment with each other and getting those referrals and recommendations from each other. Shameless plug, I'm going to shout out Paul here. The Boise Ad Fed is hosting my students on Tuesday, April 29th at Mad Sweet Brewery. And so they're going to do their National Student Advertising Competition presentation Tuesday night from 5 to 7, just so you can come and see what they're doing. And other BAF members will be there. So those of you who are looking for jobs, go introduce yourselves to other people who are in our industry.
Awesome. Great idea. Yeah, please.
Could I add one thing?
Please.
So clubs are great. How many students are in the room? Just curious to kind of get a sense of how many there are of you. Clubs are great, but your performance is being observed in many cases by your peers who are also probably looking for work too. I would recommend thinking about joining a board. I'm assuming PRSA perhaps has a board. Chase and I serve on the HR board here in the Treasure Valley. And when you put yourself in front and people who can be influential in your career can see your work, that's really helpful. And that's sweat equity. You don't get paid by being on a board, but you develop terrific relationships with others, and the way that you stand out on a board is by being a hard worker. The one who says, I'm an executor, I'm going to take this idea and I'm going to run it to concept. And if I saw you do that stuff on a board, I'd be your promoter for life. So finding ways to connect with people who can be influential and promote you through your volunteer work. Clubs are great. Board work is not rarefied air. I think that some people think you've got to be something special to be on a board, and there might be some cases where there's a paid board seat that's true, but most boards our volunteer boards, and it's really around how much heart and work can you put into that, and who can notice that, and how can you leverage it. So I just wanted to add that as a potential avenue for you to think about too as you're trying to further your job search.
Love that. Thank you, Stephanie. You know, and I want to talk about plugs. I want to put a plug in for Rhea. Her and her organization do an excellent networking event each month. Definitely visit her website and check that out. It's phenomenal. It'll connect you with folks. And the only thing that I would add maybe to that is, in addition to boards, is internships. One of my first internships was with the governor of Idaho, and he wrote my first recommendation. I was going to work at Ernst, a hardware store, and the governor of Idaho wrote my recommendation letter, and I got the job. So, yeah, internships can be kind of important. They can be very, very helpful.
I want to add to that. We are doing a returnship.
Oh, really?
So a mother took some time off to raise her child, and now we have done a returnship, which is
Oh, I
pretty
love
cool.
that. That's a great idea. Love it. Okay, Brandon, you're up next in the hot seat. What are some key considerations when planning a career change in 2025?
Okay, so again, what's the saying goes, what is the saying as it goes? The more things change, the more they stay the same, right? Rhea had shared some excellent things at the top of this, where resumes are still a thing as you prepare to make any type of pivot, any type of job change, be that because you have to, due to a layoff, due to just graduating, right? We have, again, speaking to our students, but if you're in a mid-career stage, the resume is still an important component, but how it is transmitted, how it is found and shared is different, right? And so I'd be curious from the recruiters on the panel to learn what their preferences are in relation to using LinkedIn. Would they prefer to get an application through the Easy Apply process as opposed to having individually developed resumes? But resumes are still a thing, and so it needs to be very clear and easy to see what you bring on the table on your resume. It just needs to be, it still does a lion's share as part of applications today. And again, even LinkedIn, if you're not using LinkedIn, you've heard its relevancy. It's something that's very important to consider having if you either don't have a profile, or at least if you really haven't even used your LinkedIn in a while. Go revisit, go kind of figure out how it works. LinkedIn has great learning tools that's available on the platform as well to really bring anybody up to speed as to its features and how it can help you not only on the profile itself, but how to network, how to actually use the platform to your benefit. And of course, those references, right? Those, I think within coaching capacities over the years, I've always encouraged, and this is what I've heard before, when it comes to professional references or letters of recommendation, really think about who knows you the best and who knows how you work. So the combination of those are some of the best references you can get. Again, whoever knows you the best and also knows how you work. Because quite frankly, if you do have a scenario in which people are checking your references or talking to the people who know you, it's not just going to be the glowing reference that you have on or recommendation that you have on your LinkedIn or you've shared as an applicant. You know, a prospective employer, a prospective partner, they're also going to care about, you know, what are things that you can improve upon, right? And so having a more objective champion as your reference can be very helpful for others trying to get to know you, if that makes sense. So let's see, a couple of the other things to be considering are, and then just think about your own network itself. Maybe you really haven't taken the time to evaluate your network. You know, who haven't you checked in with in a while? Remember, friends and family are some of the best ones to start your network, but also remember they can be professionals as well. So think about people you've worked with over the years. Maybe you just haven't reconnected in a while. If you can find them on LinkedIn, you're probably going to find what they've been doing in the time since you've maybe last talk to them. And so there's a lot of things that you can discover through the scope of others as you network and learn and explore on LinkedIn. So other things to kind of consider if you're considering making a change or really kind of looking for opportunities. If you do have this time where there is a bit of a pause due to either a layoff or some other type of change, you know, really kind of do a self-assessment and analyze your own assets, right? So think about, what have you done so far? What can you do, right? You know, think about your background, what you've done so far. And then maybe, I like some of the questions to ask yourself, like, what should I be doing? You know, what do I want to do, right? Where am I needed, right? These are all things that you can kind of think about that maybe tap into your values, as well as, you know, those whole things about be passionate about what you do and follow your interests. But, you know, there are some things that you are just good at. And so how can you leverage those as you look for your next opportunities? And really then, even within that capacity, up front, maybe do this legwork with yourself before you get into conversations as an applicant, right? Yeah. And so, like, really think about what do I really want? And then that should be then as like in a job. What do I want in a job, out of a job? What do I want in a workplace? What do I want a schedule to look like, you know? And basically just what do I want in life as pertaining to myself as a professional? And I think if you do that self-assessment first, or at least early on, I always encourage students I work with that during the interview stage, you should not be doing career planning with the people that you're interviewing with. And by that I mean, if they ask you that common question, hey, where do you see yourself in a year or 5 years? Like, that's not the time to kind of do some career planning with the person that's trying to figure out, do I want to hire this person or not, right? That's work to be done on your own, so you'll feel more prepared. And if anything, it may help you narrow and focus and be more effective at the opportunities you're finding and be that much more motivated for when you're applying. You'll have your messaging down even more as well.
That's huge. Thank you. Okay, panelists, I'm going to put you on the spot. And for those of you online, get your questions in, because we're going to turn to question and answers here in a couple minutes. Okay, especially recruiters, best or worst question asked in an interview? Who wants to? Stephanie, you grabbed your mic. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I had a candidate, actually it just happened this week. So I am recruiting for kind of a sales role in the Atlanta market. It's kind of unusual for me to be outside of Boise, so that's been fun, but that's another story. So this candidate says to me, the finalists will be flown into Boise for final interviews because the company's based here. And he says, the finalists I know, anybody you bring into Boise is going to be high quality at that point. He goes, I'm certain that there is kind of a secret sauce that is going to separate the chosen candidate from everyone else. What is it for this role? He got all the tea. I mean, he got the keys to the kingdom with the way he asked that question. I've never had somebody frame up that question
Can you repeat
just
that?
like
Can you repeat that just one more time for those of us taking notes over here, please?
Yeah, it's the best question I've ever gotten as a recruiter. So, you know, by the final interview, everybody's going to be really, really qualified for the job. But you probably know, so he pointed to my expertise. He stroked my ego a little. You probably know what it's going to take, that little extra that's going to be the person selected. What is that in this job? It was really good.
Oh, that's good. Anyone else? Okay, who's next up? Best or worst? Brandon, do you have one?
Again, I just have a comment to that one. That is awesome, because there's a huge difference. Many times when I'm working with people, they'll be asking, okay, so here's some questions I'm thinking about asking, and it's typically like, what should I do? Like asking the interviewer, like, what can I do to be successful? And again, what you said there was a huge difference there, because asking the interviewer for instructions is way different than asking the interviewer for information, and that's huge.
That's very good. Anyone else want to take a stab at this one, Ray? Please.
Okay, from a personal branding perspective, I hire a bunch of creatives all the time. So one of the favorite questions I love to ask is, if you could pick a color to be, what would that color be and why? And I'm just going to point out some colors over here. So we've got blue and orange and green, and those are primary colors, right? Everyone wants to identify with something that's going to make them stand out, that you're going to be professionally dressed and prepared, and making sure that you're showing up and doing something that's going to stand out. So I love to hear when people tell me, the best answer I've heard, polka dot. I'm like, that's not a color, but then they had a whole reasoning behind why polka dot would be fun. So anyway, I like that question a lot because it just gives a little bit of personality. And from a branding perspective, colors mean a lot. Like orange is fresh and renewed, and blue is calming, and green means money, right? ICCU? Anyway, so just color. I love to play around with color and see what creative answers they can come up with, because it just shares a little bit about personality.
That's a good one. Chase, please.
Yeah, I got asked, it was for an HR leadership program role that I was interviewing for at the time, and I was asked if you had to describe yourself as an animal, what would it be? And I was taken aback a little bit because I thought that, and this was with like a reputable top 10 like industrial company in the world at the time, and I'm like, really? You want to know what kind of animal I would be? Like that makes sense for like a marketing, PR, graphic arts type role, but like for an HR manager, you want to know what kind of animal I'm going to be? I thought that was so strange. I got the job, so.
That's all it works.
Oh gosh. It was a gorilla.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
My go-to that I ask in interviews is, what was the last book you read? And I love that one. And I've got a whole spectrum of responses. And when somebody, I haven't read a book, it just kind of tells me a little bit about what they do with their time. So, anyone else on that, best and worst? All right, so moving right along.
I do have one
please.
real quick. So I started my career kind of in market research, so I'm just by default, I love to explore and to learn more and understand. And so one of the go-to questions that I typically encourage students that I work with to have ready to go when they're asked or given the opportunity to ask questions would be, just ask about what are challenges and opportunities facing the organization. Just generally try to get into their world. Make it less about you and more about them, because if they're willing to answer and share a lot of good information for you, the more information you have, the better decision you can make come that period or that moment in the interview process. If you are asked to, if you're given an offer, you should know whether you're going to want to accept that offer or not and move forward. But generally speaking, like there's so many opportunities up front to ask really good questions so you can know going in what to expect. And if they're willing to share that, there's going to be less surprises and therefore a better partnership as well. And so just general questions of like, try to get into their world and not necessarily ask them about their job if that's not the job you're interviewing for, right? So really ask about what's their world like? What are they excited about? What are their challenges? Because those things that organization is either excited about and or is challenging for them may either directly or indirectly impact the job that you are interviewing for.
Yeah, no, it's true. Amanda, I want to ask you a question. Say I've got a role right now within a company, and I want to be promoted. And I don't want to be over the top, like promote me, I'm all great, Talk to me a little bit about internal progression,
Yeah.
within a company.
I know we're getting close to time, so I'm conscious of that, but here's what I'll say about advancement. If you ever chase promotion advancement, it's going to be obvious to most people around you. So I would recommend, advancement is, and organizations are watching talent. So you're already being discussed because of talent management practices with things like development, succession planning. So here's my advice. It's a combination of three things. It's your performance. How well are you showing up and adding value within the role that you currently hold? What sort of visibility do you have within the organization? You want to build reciprocity, build a good network internally, show and add value up across every encounter that you have. And then the third is alignment. Do you show up in alignment with the goals and the values and the behaviors that the organization is espousing to? If you keep those three in really good balance, you will show up ready for promotion. So expressing interest, you know, ambition, I think, shows up with good work performance, building, you know, high reciprocity relationships, being in alignment with organizational goals. If you have that be your focus, you will watch your career just, and last thing I'll say, career advancement does not go like this. It goes like this, up and down. So some of you are facing a transition. You may say, hey, transitions can go this direction or this direction, right? So it's a jungle gym, not a ladder.
Oh, great.
Can I add
Great
something to
advice.
that?
Please, Jason.
The best career decision I ever made was taking a 30% pay decrease to get into the right function. Because once I started doing what I like to do, I saw my career do the ladder, right? So be in the right place. The other thing I'll add to what Amanda was saying, you had three things, I'll say a fourth. We get to, most of the people that we work with are external candidates. But every once in a while, the company that we're working with will say, well, we have one internal we'd like you to interview as part of the process. And unfortunately, we often have to give bad news to this internal candidate, like, hey, it's not going to work out. And they will, without a doubt, ask, what could I have done to get this job? What we tell them is, if you have ideas around the problem that that person, that role is going to be solving, why aren't you communicating what the solutions for that problem are to your leadership team right now? Like, you know what the problems are. Why don't you hatch the plan, put it to form, and then take it to your leaders? And 9 times out of 10, they haven't done that. And so putting together kind of what your plan would be for your manager's manager, I think is not a bad place to start in terms of getting that promotion. It says, I want a promotion without saying, hey, I need more money, or I got kids getting into high school, they're driving, I need a new car. Like, go to them with a solution to a problem they're facing, and you'll be received a lot better, I think.
Isn't this great? Aren't these great advice? Holy cow, it's so good. Please.
And if I may add to that, I love the word jungle gym, and I love the word ladder. And so again, there's a physicality to that. And so it may feel uncomfortable if you're mid-career or even late career or even early career, and not everything kind of lines up what you're hoping for. But remember, exercise can be good for you. If anything, it's very good for you. And over time, it's going to make you more prepared and more fit.
Love it. Stephanie.
Let me just also say, for those of you that are thinking about going back into the corporate world, you know, you're looking for a job with an organization, these periods of time where you're thinking about what you might want to do next might open up something entrepreneurial for you. Life is not all about going and working for someone else. So I want to leave a seed that perhaps might take bloom in your own mind, that sometimes when you can't find an employer that's going to do it for you because you've got little kids and scheduling flexibility is your number one, sometimes these periods of time can be very creative and open up a third option that you've never even thought of. And so that was the case for me, and that's for another time. But entrepreneurial endeavors are where you can build true wealth, and you can also architect exactly what you want. And so that's an option too.
Love it. All right, let's go to some questions online, please.
I just wanted everyone in the room, the panel, to recognize that we have 15 attendees joining us over Zoom. We welcome you in the room. We're so glad that you've joined us as well. This has just been such an amazing event so far. So Shannon Finch asks, do headhunters still exist?
Okay, let's talk to our 2 recruiting folks.
Yes, they do. Headhunter is such an interesting word, but it still exist. I think some people would consider me a headhunter. I wouldn't, but that's beside the point. But there are recruiters all over the country, serving all kinds of industries. Even within my own firm, we support, industrial companies, education, government, healthcare, life sciences, agriculture. I mean, just across the board. And that's just one firm. And I know there's thousands and thousands of independent headhunters and recruiters that will work on a contingency basis. So absolutely, and they're great people to connect with and network with, because often they'll have their thumb on the pulse of what's going on in a particular market. So.
Yeah. And I just echo that in my own firm. We spend tens of thousands of dollars with headhunters. Some people lose sleep because they can't find a job. I lose sleep because I can't find people for jobs that I have opening. And I've got openings that have been open for over a year. And it is so hard to find good work talent. And so, yeah.
That's actually a really good point. Like, business owners are losing sleep over not having people in these jobs. And you need to leverage that as a seeker. You need to say, is it really worth having this job open, losing the potential money income that you'd be having by having someone in the role, by not hiring me? Like, come on. Like, that's something to talk about.
I love that question. Any more questions from online? And then we'll open up to the room.
We don't right now, but.
Okay, great. Okay, those in the room, you guys have been waiting for this moment. You've got professionals up here. Yeah.
Yeah, you have the catch box.
Oh.
You gonna throw it at people?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, who wants to step up? Who's got the question? Okay, right here. Here we go.
I just had a question on, is this a mic? Yes. All right.
Oh, it's got a microphone there.
Yeah. Just a quick question on market trends here in the Treasure Valley. I'm curious, I have the perception that construction jobs have for a long time sort of been the tide that have sort of kept the market up. Where do you predict the market's going? Are we seeing any of these big tech companies that are maybe in Salt Lake, Denver area coming here? Or what are kind of predictions in terms of the future for our Treasure Valley market?
That's a great question, please.
So I would say probably 5-6 years ago, we saw a lot of companies move into Boise who weren't in the market. They were doing a lot of back office recruiting, so those are probably roles that you and I are in today. So accounting, finance, marketing, HR, because they came in with the hope that this was a low-cost market. And they were very, very surprised when they couldn't hire a controller for $80,000. And a lot of those people have left the market. They have been acquired by a larger company. And so we are not seeing the activity of new employers coming into market like we did 5-6 years ago. And I think a lot of that is cost of living, cost of labor, cost of housing. It's no longer cheap to build a business in Boise. Healthcare is still plentiful. Food manufacturing is plentiful. Manufacturing in general and construction are probably the two industries that we've seen the most growth. We're also seeing growth outside of the Treasure Valley. So Northern Idaho, that job market is a little bit better than ours, and we're seeing growth down in Twin. So the growth is also happening outside of the Treasure Valley.
Anyone else want to
I
weigh
do
in? What a
have
great question.
Another question from our Zoom attendees. This is from an anonymous attendee. She says, or he, I have an internship with HR and recruitment in the summer. How can I best prepare to thrive in that role? And thank you for your insight.
Oh, that's a great question. Who wants to take a stab at that? Amanda, please.
Yes. So if I understand correctly, an internship within talent acquisition for a healthcare organization. Is that right?
They said an internship with HR and recruitment in the summer. So
Okay, in the summer.
not
Oh,
specific.
gosh. I mean, I think my best advice would be to show up with energy and hustle and ask lots of questions, say yes to whatever you're asked to do, and do it well, and just show that you're really eager to learn and develop. And that's my best recommendation.
I'll add to that. Steffi and I, when I moved back to Boise in 2017, worked on a project together for Simplot. And we had, she wasn't an intern, Ashley Love. And she was a bulldog. Like, she just got in and got stuff done. And that led to other jobs that she had. But I actually talked to her 5 years later, helped her get into the MBA program at BYU, talked her into taking the GMAT and doing all that. And now she's doing some international role in Italy of some kind. Like, she's just exploded. Yeah, she was at Goldman as well, right? So she's had just this incredible career, but it started with this like internship-like role where we were just throwing her at every single odds and ends, logistics thing within a recruiting context, and her career has really taken off. So you can absolutely start there and just like Amanda said, have
They're
energy,
great
just go.
gateways. Internships are great gateways into organizations, and oftentimes what organizations will do is say, whoa, this is someone who's really got talent, we want them, right? So I just think it's an interview. It's a 6-month interview, 3-month interview.
Yeah, it's huge.
I want to
Rachel.
add to, we've had interns, 2, 3, 4 of them at a time sometimes, and one of the interns wrote a wonderful essay on the value of a pepper shock education.
Wow.
And I mean, it was just phenomenal, the experience that they get, but we also get something out of them too. We learn just as much from our interns as they get to learn from us. And I think that the internships that companies offer, I mean, and for those of you who are maybe in a position where you're laid off and you can talk to people about doing an exit or externship, or after you've graduated from school, you've been in your career, you want to go back, you want to do some things. It could be unpaid. We've done that too. You have to have a start date and an end date, because if we're not going to hire them afterwards, it can get awkward, but you do that. And that might be also another way to build your portfolio, build your experience, build something that you want to, maybe if your career, if you want to build your skills, you can do some things like that. And like this returnship, those are things that you can do in the meantime, in the interim, until you find a job that you want to be a part of. And now you've got some current things that you can put on your resume. And we've done a lot of that over the years. And I think that that's something that could be taken advantage of even more.
If I may, yeah, so one last thing. Since I work with a lot of students that are doing internships, I kind of want to advocate for those in the room who may not be a student. Again, forms of work will be different. So if you are a professional, if you're a subject matter expert, and you maybe just take on gig work as far as consulting and that kind of stuff, or if it's just a part-time job, this is something that, again, one of the students I worked with, I want to give them attribution there, had a great piece of advice that's so common, common sense, is keep track of your accomplishments during that time. So even if you're in a job or in a temporary job, keep track of what you're doing so you don't have to, at the very end of said job or internship or whatever, update your resume. Like every week, just kind of keep track of what you're doing and accomplishing. And clearly with the employer or whomever you're contracting with, you want to make sure to have a good understanding of what you can share and have on your resume, so to speak. But you'll just do yourself a big favor if you are working on your own development in that experience, and you're not having to do a bunch of catch up of updating your resume at the conclusion of that.
Love that.
And a lot of times you'll have an opportunity to work with your employer to kind of talk through how things went.
Love it. Okay, we got one more question right here. Okay, please.
Woohoo! I made my first win today. Okay, so this is the site. Okay, so mine is I think a hard question, and maybe it's because of what I struggle with myself. So I am obviously late career, very senior experience, and so if I get that magical question of where I want to be in 5 years, the truth is I will be retired in 5 years. How do you package that without giving away your age, without sounding like, oh, I'm going to be done? How would you package that?
Great question. Amanda, please.
Jump in on this, because I think, for really smart organizations and smart hiring managers, they are seeking diversity of talent. And I can speak for myself. We look at the composition of the team and we want early career, mid, late career. I just brought someone 2 years onto my team who was within 5 years of retirement. And I knew the value that he would drive and add to complement the team and the work. So what I would just encourage is to advocate for how your experience and your background, and believe that there are really, I would say, great hiring leaders out there who understand the value in creating really diverse teams. The other thing that I will say, and this is, I turn it over to my recruitment friends, because I know too, in my own years, you don't have to write the 50 years of history on the resume, right? Just show get in that room, get in that door, and then, anyway, look at it as a real strength. And you want to be with smart hiring managers who understand how your experience will complement.
So good.
Can I
Really
add one
good.
more thing? I have a really prime example. There's Marie over there. I'm going to embarrass her right now. It's okay. I know her end date. I know when she's going to retire. But I wanted her experience so badly because she's had so much knowledge and experience in working for people before that she's setting the stage up for the next person that's going to come behind her. And she's documenting everything for us. She's paving a way for the next person. And it just gives me goosebumps because I'm so happy to have her. If they know when you're going to be done, then the value that you could bring, Linda, I mean, phenomenal. And I think that would be a really good example.
Well, folks, we're about ready to wrap up. Didn't that hour go by fast? Holy smokes, so much good stuff. These panelists have been incredible. Let's give them a round of applause for their... Yeah. So just in closing, I want to say this. For those of you that are looking for jobs, and it's hard, you've sent out how many resumes? A lot. You've lost track. And you wonder if there is hope. And you wonder if somebody will ever hire you. The answer is yes. There's a hiring manager out there right now looking for what you have to offer. You just got to find them. And we're going to help you. We're going to network this group. That's what we're going to do. Connect with these leaders here, I'm sure on LinkedIn and in that space. Ask for their help. Connect with them. There is hope. You'll find a job. So again, thank you for being here, and thank you for these two fine organizations for putting this together.